setting with barbecue sauce on my nipples. Yeah. Oh, hello there. Thank you for joining us once again.
Hello.
For this, the 29th episode of the
129th.
The 129th episode of the Drunk Doctor Who. It seems like yesterday we're doing our 29th episode, doesn't it?
That was about 4 years ago.
Was it? Just like yesterday. Wherein we discussed the 129th story of Doctor Who.
King's Demons.
King's Demons.
I'm Hatter. This is Holden. What are you drinking today?
Today I'm drinking Twisted Tea Half and Half.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
That splurge. My favorite.
Today I'm drinking Magnaflame. Par for the course.
Always a classic.
Mm-hmm. Classically good. Mm-hmm. All right, this may be our shortest podcast outside of Heroes and Villains.
Or our longest.
Oh, God. All right.
What was our longest? 3 hours and something?
Yeah, the Daleks Master Plan or something.
I'm shooting for 4 hours. I think realistically we can get through each episode in about 2 hours each.
Let's wait for the 2 Doctors.
It is the 5 Doctors, you mean?
No. 5 Doctors is 1 episode.
Yeah.
2 Doctors is 3 episodes.
Oh.
And they're each an hour long.
The 2 Doctors is?
Mm-hmm.
Does that come after the 5 Doctors?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So we have the 3 Doctors, then the 5 Doctors, then the 2 Doctors?
Yep.
And that's kind of in the same,
Except the 2 Doctors is, I believe thus far, the only multi-Doctor proper serial that is not an anniversary special.
Oh, that was my next question. Was it an anniversary special?
It was not.
So next week, join us for the 5 Doctors.
5 Doctors.
This week, we discuss the season finale, The King's Demons, and are we voting?
I forgot the DVD. It's like, oops.
So this was filmed on the 3rd, 15th, 1983. So jump in your TARDISes, hop back in time with us as we travel through from... Well, actually, it just took place in 1 week because they've been airing them back to back. Was it Monday and Wednesday they're airing them? So it was the 15th... Oh, no, Monday, Tuesday.
Monday, Tuesday.
So it was just the 15th and the 16th. That's the whole serial. 2 days, aired back to back because it's only 2 episods.
The King's Demons. And look, who's the bad guy? Bum, bum, bum.
It's the Master. Ah, spoiler.
Well, it's right on the cover. All right. So
the Master's back. So
yep.
We start off this serial going, is it a plot? Is it a ploy from the Black Guardian? Possibly. Nope. It's the good old Master again.
Yeah, he's in disguise again. A trope he does a lot, and then surprises the Doctor. Anyway, so first episode, the TARDIS winds up for some unknown reason in 1215, March the 4th of 1215.
It is 3 months before the Magna Carta took place.
Yes. So anyway, there's King John.
It's a historical.
Well, yeah, but it's not true, pure historical because it has a sci-fi element.
Yeah.
Of
the TARDIS?
Chameleon.
Oh yeah, Chameleon.
You're always going to have pretty well. Not all
the new companion.
Yes,
spoiler.
We have a new companion. Spoilers. Alright. So they wind up there.
Wouldn't all historicals be sci-fis?
No, like Black Orchid had no sci-fi element out of
the TARDIS,
out of the Doctor stuff. True historicals, like the very first one when they went to the Stone Age, don't have any sci-fi whatsoever outside of what the Doctor and his companions bring with them.
And this Chameleon's spelled with a K, right?
Yes, spelled with a K. Alright, so anyway.
And no H.
Correct.
And no Z.
Correct.
No X.
Correct. As irrelevant as those last 2 statements were.
When's the last time you played Hangman?
Been a little while.
Okay, my name's Bob with a silent B. Which B?
The one you didn't hear. Okay, so
the third one,
the Dr. Tegan and Nyssa show up. Pardon me. The Dr. Tegan and Turlough. We lost Nyssa. Dr. Tegan and Turlough show up. It's medieval England,
Yeah.
And
There's a pterodactyl. Right? Do you know why you don't hear a pterodactyl sing? P.
because the P is silent.
Yeah. It's like my middle name. There's a T in it, but you don't hear it.
What's your middle name?
Wesley. But with a T, like West.
Wesley.
Yeah, but you don't hear the T, so I like to say it's silent.
Okay.
It's Wesley with a silent T.
No, we don't have a pterodactyl in this, but we will later on in Torchwood.
We had a... When's the last time we saw a pterodactyl? In...
There
Was the dinosaurs one? The dinosaurs,
Yeah, it was
that what it's called?
yeah, the well, okay. It was the one with the dinosaurs in London during the Third Doctor.
That was so
Dude.
great.
Okay. And we're gonna see one in Torchwood.
It reminded me of like one of those Godzilla movies. There's one in Torchwood?
There's one in Torchwood.
Oh, that's coming up.
And there's one in Dinosaurs on a Spaceship.
That's also one we haven't seen yet.
Right, that is during the 11th Doctor.
Oh.
Dinosaurs on a Spaceship.
Lots of pterodactyls yet to come. Stay tuned. I should have asked, does the pterodactyl come back? Because it does.
Well, a pterodactyl shows up here. Alright, so anyway, the Doctor shows up. King John is at this Lord's home.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like a duke or something. Anyway, King John demands that... Yeah, he's a jerk. He demands that the guy give him more money, even though he's already given him his entire fortune.
Mm-hmm.
And then the king's champion literally throws down the gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
And the gauntlet is picked up by the Duke or Baron or whatever's son.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to strike the champion, which of course means I accept your challenge. So the king's like... the Lord's like... Did you get his name?
Which one? The King's?
No, the Lord. It's King John.
Oh, his name was either Sir Joffrey or Sir Giles. It might be Sir Joffrey Giles.
No. Joffrey is him. Giles was the Master's pretend French character.
We're not talking about other... Who are we talking about?
I was talking about the Lord.
Which one?
The Lord whose castle they were in.
Oh!
The one who was hosting the king, right?
Ranult? Is that it? Or Hugh?
No, Hugh's the son.
So probably Renault.
Yeah, okay.
The...
So this Lord Renault...
yeah.
So his son, who was incredibly proud, and who was in Top Secret, the movie, which now made the movie list.
Saw the movie list.
Yeah. Yep, the blonde kid, and he's very, very proud. Picks up the gauntlet, accepts the challenge from the king's champion, and the Lord's like, King, take everything I have, the estate, the treasure, everything. Just leave me my remaining son. Apparently there was another brother who probably died in the Crusades or what have you.
Probably, yeah.
So the king's like, no, we will have a fight tomorrow. And
very cruel.
Yeah, very cruel. Then he retires. Everything he does is very dickish.
Mm-hmm.
He's a real Hanyak. And the Lord keeps saying, why is he so changed? What happened to him? What's afflicting him?
Right.
Yeah. So we go to the next day, and they're having the contest.
Jousting, everything.
Yeah, jousting, a proper duel. You start with jousting, and then when somebody gets knocked off the horse, then you go to standard combat. The Doctor and Tegan and Turlo show up. The TARDIS just shows up almost literally on the jousting field.
Unfortunately distracts Hugh. He gets dismounted spectacularly, which so disorients him that he's pretty laid out. The Doctor and his companions...
What he's dealing with, when you get hit in the chest with a lance, it's going to knock the wind out of you. And he was dealing with not being able to catch his breath.
It sounds like you speak from experience. Have you really been jousting at like Renaissance Festival or like LARPing or whatever?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Although I've gotten, like when I used to play Amcard, I've gotten hit in the chest a few times, and I have had the wind knocked out of me by that. So I figure a lance going at the speed of a horse is going to do that even worse.
Do you know how fast that's going on average?
A horse?
Yeah, about 1 horsepower.
Okay.
Do you know a horsepower doesn't actually equate to 1 horsepower?
What does it equate to?
A little bit more. A horse is slightly above, on average, 1 horsepower.
I guess we have better horses than you.
So I don't know where the horsepower measurement comes from. But yeah, he gets... So the doctor comes out, and the king is so delighted, he goes, "Oh, demons!"
My demons. He keeps referring to the Doctor, Tegan, and Turlo as his demons. Hence the king's demons, all throughout the serial, the story. And so he invites them to sit with him. Then they watch the rest of the combat.
The guy's about to execute the guy that was dismounted.
The king's champion, Giles, is about to execute Hugh, the blonde kid who was dismounted. And
has not stood up yet.
right. And the doctor's like, "King, if the whole point was to see who was vanquished, I think we have a clear winner and a clear loser. Need blood be shed?" And King's like, "Spare him." And so the kid's spared. The doctor helps him. Then they go to the feast that night. They go to the castle. And Tegan is dressed for some crazy summertime something. She's in like these little tights and a short skirt and a little top. She's not ready for March in England in the 13th century.
Very cold, yeah.
She's really cold. And
she's dressed for the 80s, which is to say impractically. With your polka dot.
Yeah. So she's like, how in the world can they survive this cold? Because obviously there's no central heat and air. I mean, and he's like, by eating lots of food, because your body in really cold weather
shivers.
Well, it shivers, but it also it does
those calories.
Yeah, it burns up the calories to keep you warm, which is why you get places when you have places that are warm. People don't burn as many calories, so they're fatter. So that's why you see fat Hawaiians and fat Mexicans and fat Italians when they're older. Yeah, but if you go to like stuff like Norway and Sweden, they're a lot more svelte because they burn more calories to cold.
A lot more
Svelte. So yeah, it means slim down.
Yeah. So that explains why Inuits are so skinny, and why Ethiopians are so kind of chubby.
No, that's a lack of food, and that's eating mostly whale blubber. Some places just don't have food. It's
the exception proves the rule or something.
Yeah. Anyway, well, it also doesn't help that, especially in Mexico and Italy, those are the most carbs you will ever eat. Those are some diets that are so high in carbs. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so they finally get her some decent clothes. Accoutre her?
Accoutrement.
Oh no, he just uses it as like a verb.
Yeah.
No, bring the vestments, he says. It's the king who letter says accoutre, talking about the doctor. Let's bring her some vestments.
Lillian has very nice vocabulary.
Yeah. So they go ahead and while they're being shown to their rooms, Turlo stops to look out a window and gets caught by the king's son, who believes he's a demon, and they take him down to the dungeon and lock him up. They're literally just about to put him in an Iron Maiden, a literal Iron Maiden, when the king has his champion bring the Duchess or whatever, the Lord's wife, the lady, and to keep her in safekeeping as a prisoner, to make sure that the Lord does whatever he wants. The Lord does what the king wants. So they throw her in the dungeon, and they're all chained up. It's her, Hugh, and Turlo. And in the meantime, the king's champion has the TARDIS brought in on a cart. Much like we saw in the one with the 7-parter.
You're talking about the historical where they get the condensation. from
Yes,
the
yes,
TARDIS?
yes, yes. Marco Polo.
Yeah.
In Marco Polo. Much like that.
We saw them bring the TARDIS in on the cart, and then we also saw them carry in the Iron Maiden, which prompted the question: did we ever settle on how much the TARDIS weighs, or a TARDIS weighs?
It doesn't weigh too much. I guess all the weight is held in that other universe. So the weight of the TARDIS is merely the weight of the shell in which the other universe is held, or the other dimension, or whatever.
So it literally weighs as much as a police box or a Iron Maiden.
Yes.
If so, hypothetically speaking, that Iron Maiden did so happen to be a TARDIS.
Well, yeah, it's the Master's TARDIS.
Wait, what? So we're told the king's not acting like himself, and right away you told us that the Black Guardian doesn't show up again, which kind of leads us to believe it's probably the Master. That's, because whenever someone stops acting like themselves, it means that it's not really them, it's someone that looks like them, which usually means there's a doppelganger, which sometimes would explain, the Dalek showing up, but lately it's mostly been the calling card of the Master.
Yeah. Oddly enough, now that Turlo is done with the Black Guardian,
Yeah.
he's a bit more helpful and nice, and he's less cowardly, except for the one scene where he's like, "You keep on accusing me without any reason."
He's still just as crafty and cunning, but now he's not so much using that craftiness as counterproductively as he was when he was
Right.
under the control of the Guardian.
You even remarked Tegan at one point smiles and says something non-whiningly.
No, Alyssa made that observation.
Oh, okay, listen, dude.
I've always liked Tegan.
I find her very whiny, both in the old and the new stuff. All right.
She was still whiny at the end of this one.
Yes, at the very end she was, but during it she was not very much, except for the "let's get in the TARDIS and leave, let's get in the TARDIS and leave,"
Which I think is always justified.
All right, so the Doctor and Tegan get taken to the feast. They still can't find Turlo. The king has them sit at the main table where the king is as a mark of honor, still calling them as demons.
And we have the Jester, who is, I've written down here as the Jester. You got his name.
Yeah, a little, of course, a little midget like they had, a little dwarf. And the Doctor's, doing his thing. And then
They dismiss the Jester, and the king asks for a lute. And they bring out his lute, and he's playing the song about the Saracens and then reclaiming the Holy Empire or something.
well, yeah, because that very specific day, the king was supposed to be in London, according to historical records, giving his oath for the Crusades.
Which leads more into that, well, the king's not acting like himself, and he's also kind of supposed to be somewhere else. So, like, what's going on?
So he's
here?
an imposter. And the Doctor, yeah, he's an imposter.
This is probably the Master.
All right, so
It's not. The king's not the Master.
yeah, so
It's a red herring.
so what's his name? Rothschild or whatever.
Renault.
Renault.
Is the
Lord Renault.
or Hugh is the guy that challenges him to the.
That's the young one. That's the son.
Oh,
Yeah, Lord Renault. Use the son.
Giles. Giles is the French swordsman.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So the king's champion, Giles, who has already defeated Hugh, he ends up meeting the Lord's cousin, who's coming back from London, where he took the oath with the king, the Crusader's oath.
That one's Joffrey, I think, or Jeffrey.
Oh, okay, Jeffrey.
Sir Jeffrey.
Yeah. So he says, "Well, wait, this man is wrong. This man he's like, wait a minute, I just came from the king."
Yeah,
He says, "Arrest him."
He was riding in. He was apprehended by the goons, and and the king comes up, and he's like, "The king's inside," and he's like, "Did he sprout wings? I just left
How
him
did he get here? By an eagle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Return of the King scenario, right?
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, the eagle and the Return of the King.
Oh,
Picked him up
yeah.
and brought him back. The eagles.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. He's been here since yesterday. He's like, that's impossible. So the Master / Giles apprehends him, takes him into there, and he's going to have him executed in the Iron Maiden. So the Doctor figures out that the Giles is the Master. Because of the things he does and how he looks. And he's got a good makeup job. It's kind of hard to tell unless you're really looking, especially with the accent, the French accent.
Oh, is actually the Master playing him?
Yes, the same actor was playing Giles. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, he affected a fairly decent accent, and they had enough makeup on him, it was hard to tell. I knew because I've seen it before, but you and Melissa had not.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think he's a different actor.
We'll look it up later.
Okay.
Anyway, so he
pulls out this dildo and he goes.
Well, hold on.
And that's when we find out it's
Yeah.
the Master. But before that, he pulls out a
It's
glove.
a tissue
instead.
compressor, and we're not there yet.
Yeah, it's not a dildo.
Okay.
Well, same thing. It does some tissue
You're not
compression.
wrong. Okay. All right. So the Doctor challenges the Master, and the King's like, no, Lord. The Lord is like, he's the best. Be careful. He's the best swordsman in France. Well, it's a good thing we're in England. He takes the Lord's sword and.
Can I borrow this? Hopefully, I do it justice.
Right. And then we have combat. Which the Doctor eventually wins. We've seen the Doctor beat the Master 3 or 4 times now with swords.
We have.
Not Pertwee.
So we've seen it with.
Pertwee. Pertwee beat him. Remember when they were fighting in the prison with the swords?
Yeah.
He beat him. Baker beat him, I believe, in. The one with the underground sewers and stuff. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of these guys did it twice.
Maybe it wasn't Baker.
Swords.
Because Baker.
I think it was Baker, but one was. So he had a sword fight with Master. He had a sword fight with Master. He had a sword fight with the Master. I think he had a sword fight and like an impromptu Kane versus Candelabro something fight.
Something. Yeah. Although that might have been Pertwee, because Pertwee.
Involved.
There were a lot of Master stories with Pertwee because they brought him in.
He was like a mainstay of
in Pertwee's time. He was, since Pertwee was stuck on Earth.
A recurring villain.
Right, he was a recurring villain. They kept coming back during that. But
he was like the Daleks of Pertwee's Earth serials.
So anyway, the Doctor beats the Master. Or beats Giles, and then he shows himself to be the Master. End of episode 1.
Yeah, the King then insists on Giles being executed.
Yeah,
and the Doctor's like, no, don't kill him. And the King goes, yes, he must die.
And finally,
they shove him in the Iron Maiden.
Well, wait. Finally, the Doctor's like, wait, as Victor, shouldn't I get to decide? And the King's like, well. You can either kill Joffrey's cousin, or you can kill the Master. And the Doctor's like, yeah, the Master, yeah. If it's a choice between those two. And so they put the Master in the Iron Maiden, and it TARDIS whooshes.
I guess that is episode 2.
Yeah.
So episode 1 ends with the dildo comes out, and his face goes whoosh, 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 and it's the Master.
Right.
And then the Doctor's like, you survived Zephyrus? What is it?
Yeah,
Zerafast.
And he's like, episodes usually end. You probably know this already. On a cliffhanger or a reveal. Every once in a while they don't. Every once in a long while they end on something fun, like the Daleks giving the Doctor a choo-choo train ride in the one where he got Victoria.
Yeah, and he goes, I guess that was kind of a reveal, because he's like, they have minds like children. It was more a lighthearted reveal. So sometimes it's they're very climactic cliffhanger of, Tune in next time to find out. Same bat station, same bat time.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah, and then other times it's like, we know you're gonna tune in.
We're just having fun with it. All right. So that was the Master's TARDIS.
End of episode 1.
Well, we already did that. Now we're in episode 2. So that was the Master's TARDIS, the Iron Maiden.
End of episode 1. Episode 2. We have the Master.
Okay.
And
They put him in the Iron Maiden.
is
and
his
it's his TARDIS.
Because his chameleon circuit actually works.
Yes.
Speaking of chameleons,
Yeah.
there's another chameleon in this.
Yeah. So he has shown himself to be the Master. Now there's a little bit of choppy editing in the second episode where he ingratiates himself to the Lord's family, the Lord, the Lady, and Hugh, and they accept him rather quickly because it's only 2 episodes, and you get the feeling that there was a bit of explanation that he did that was cut out, you know? So he goes and he grabs the guards and he releases the lady and the son, Hugh, leaves Turlough chained up, and he's like, okay, I'm going to help you. And like I said, you feel like there's a missing scene in there where he was helping. So one thing I like about shows on the streaming services these days that are not broadcast terrestrially is that you can have as much or as little time as you need. You don't have to fit and cut things out and fit it into a certain exact time slot.
Do you know that's where the binge culture came from? Was they went from releasing episodes episodically and then having to fit in a specific time slot and make room for advertisements, and it varies. So then that went to on-demand type streaming to where they could release entire seasons. And sometimes those seasons would still follow the format of every episode's 45 minutes. But other times you see it, this one's 55 minutes, this one's 40 minutes. They kind of just have that flexibility to fit in exactly what they need to.
I thought it might have come from when the DVDs started going out and you could buy, seasons and whole shows like just on one box set. I have Married with Children in there, and all 11 seasons are on a box set maybe this big. So when they started putting that out, you could just throw it in and watch and watch and watch.
Right, yeah, and you can technically binge those, but those are always going to be in a rerun format where you could watch them live, broadcast, and then the binging would be afterwards once it's re-released on DVD. Now they're releasing brand new shows never before seen, entire seasons at a time, and this has led to the Netflix culture of people watching an entire new season.
Well, they still sometimes,
back to back.
I think with Stranger Things, they release one episode a week.
They do. For that helps them because it's a Netflix original, and they want those monthly subscriber. So
I just wait till they're all released, and then I get it for a month, and then
one
we
month
binge it.
watch them all. Yeah,
It's like watch it within 2 weeks because you're watching an episode a night.
That's pretty common. Yeah, that's what I do with Game of Thrones. They'd release a new season, and I had to subscribe to HBO for a couple months and catch up on it, and then cancel.
All right. So since the Doctor vanquished the King's Champion, the Master, he's now the King's Champion. His demon and his champion, and he gets a specific robe that he wears as the King's Champion, and the King knights him. Sir Doctor. I mean, you never thought you'd hear that, right?
Sir Doctor.
Yes, the King knights him. It's not the real king, so he's not really a proper knight, but we find that out a little later. And that's where he says accoutrement him, using accoutrement as a verb, which I'd never heard before.
Oh, I thought that was with Tegan.
Accoutre. No, that's bring warm vestments.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Doctor gets knighted again, which I think is maybe the second or third time he's been knighted.
The first time he was knighted?
I'd have to check, but I'm pretty sure he's knelt and he's been there through the whole knighting before.
He does get knighted again later as well.
And again later, okay.
Yeah.
So I thought, there's another title for the Doctor. It's like, you're a doctor in what? And he goes, several things.
Practically everything, yeah.
Also president of the Time Lords. And
Right.
And
Well,
this,
later on. Well,
that,
yes, he's president of Time
that,
Lords, and then later on he's president of Earth.
Of Earth.
Yes, later on he's president of Earth.
Just another title for the Doctor.
Yeah. So he gets the Lord's cousin, and
Jeffrey?
yeah, Jeffrey claims he's a prisoner, takes him down to the dungeon, and
That's where he
Right.
runs into Turlo, who's also in the dungeon.
well, yeah, but it's hilarious because this is the part where Tegan was smiling, and it's like,
yeah.
and she's like, well, why in the world are we going there? He's like, well, where would the master keep his TARDIS for safekeeping? She's like, oh, the dungeon. He's like, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So they go down there, they rescue Turlo, they,
She's actually jovial about the situation, whereas usually
Correct.
with Turlo she was very negative and critical and suspicious. But now we've seen that story arc kind of come to its conclusion with the
so we
Black
give her
Guardian.
somebody else to be negative and suspicious.
So now that he's no longer under the influence of the Black Guardian, which she's very much kind of in tune with. She's now more accepting of Turlo.
So,
But there's a new companion.
A new companion.
She's not.
So they release Jeffrey, and he says, well, that's obviously not the king. And the Doctor's like, yeah, right, because he was in London this morning, but this king's been here since yesterday. He's like, okay, I must go and warn the king. So they get Jeffrey on a horse, and that's where Turlo's very, very handy and friendly. Slaps the horse goes, a nice white, beautiful horse, looks like Shadowfax. And
Out comes a crossbow.
out comes a crossbow, and under the master's command, one of the guards shoots in the back Jeffrey, and we have our first and only death of the serial. He gets brought in, and he's dying.
What's the name of the horse from the Neverending Story?
Oh,
Because it's also something facts, right?
Shadowfax is Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Neverending Story.
Treyu and his horse.
Yeah, Atreyu, and I forget the name of the
I
horse.
thought it was something facts. Facts is a very popular ending to a name for horses, I think.
I don't remember the name of the
Me
horse.
either. Which do you think was better, though? Shadowfax or the one from Neverending Story?
Shadowfax lived.
He did. So sad.
Spoilers. All right.
It's this children's PG movie that teaches you about, loss and survivor's guilt, and it's so brutal for a children's book.
It is okay.
It's rough.
Have you read the book?
No, but it's even more brutal than the movie, I hear.
Yes. And I think we've talked about this some years before, but yeah, in the movie's like the first half of the book. In the book,
Was it Arfax? Was the horse?
something like that.
Shadowfax and Arfax.
In the book, the kid who names the world and saves the princess becomes despotic.
I remember
And-
we had a conversation about this.
And Atreyu has to lead a rebellion against him. I mean, these are heavy.
Yeah. We also had a disagreement on the name that he says at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because it says it in the book, because in the book it's not the end of the story.
Mhm.
But in the movie, that's kind of the conclusion. And he says it in the movie, but
He's literally yelling it into the wind.
and you can't hear it because there's
That's
a
why there
lightning
are
strike.
subtitles.
Well, yeah, I guess they added to captions once they.
Well,
I don't think it was meant to be heard by the viewer. Is why they obfuscate it with the
once
with
again,
the lightning.
subtitles. It was his mother's name.
Yeah. Which was.
I don't remember.
Yeah, me either. I don't think we're meant to know the name. was the artistic
Lessons.
influence of the movie versus the book, where it's literally, in black and white.
Okay, so the Doctor is looking for the king.
But his mom had a weird name too. It was like something song, spring song. Some,
I don't remember.
Some hippy dippy name.
Well, that was about the right time for it, actually.
Yeah.
So the Doctor's looking for the king. In the meantime, Turlo gets hauled in.
Our tax.
You're right. That's it. Artax.
Not our facts, our tax.
Artax.
Our tax. I think that's right.
Sounds right. Alright, so Turlo gets hauled in. He gets blamed by you, who they look about the same age, right? He gets blamed by you for killing this guy, the Lord's cousin. And it's like, I didn't do it. I was helping him. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, we know you're on the wrong side because they've been convinced by the Master that the Doctor and Turlo and Tegan are actually demons and they're bad guys. He's like, why do you keep threatening me and blaming me of things without any evidence? It's the most he sounded like the previous Turlo, you know?
When no one else is advocating for you, you have to advocate for yourself.
Agreed.
He's like, why am I getting blamed for all this?
Like, what? I didn't do it. I was helping him.
It's fair.
So the Doctor hears the king playing the lute, like he did at the feast. Mm-hmm. At the dinner. I love it. They got a meal called meat. Yeah. They just have a meal called meat. You will join us for meat. And I'm like, I love a meal called meat. MEAT. That sounds perfect.
I went to McDonald's and looked at the nutritional facts on their hamburger and it also just said meat. It was just labeled meat.
With scare quotes. Yeah. I haven't eaten McDonald's in forever.
I was like, what is in this? Meat is in it. Don't worry, it's meat.
Oh my gosh. So, the Doctor...
I didn't actually go to McDonald's. That was gross. That's a joke.
We used to love it.
I said that just for the joke.
So the Doctor goes in with the king. The Master shows up. And the king's playing his lute, and it is revealed that the king is Chameleon, with a K. Alright? Mm-hmm. Chameleon. And
it's Chameleon.
He is this android who can change forms. He can be what he wants to be, what people influence him to be, but he does have a mind of his own. And the Master is currently commanding him. The Doctor and the Master have a little battle of wills over Chameleon, and the Master wins. So then the Lord, the Lady, the Son, Turlo, everybody enters the room because they're trying to protect the king.
The other cast members and the extras.
Yeah.
Come on, camera.
Okay, in the meantime, the Doctor had sent Tegan into the TARDIS,
yes.
And the coordinates were already set in it, which he set the coordinates to the king's chamber, oddly enough, when he didn't know where the king was.
Yeah, there's the big commotion, so he sends Tegan to escape through the TARDIS. He goes, cause a distraction, and the TARDIS disappearing causes a distraction, in which case
he gets away.
That's when he sneaks away, and they go, he's vanished, no one was paying attention, he's vanished. So the Doctor says, go into the TARDIS and create a distraction. So she goes into the TARDIS, it dematerializes, which is the distraction. She then spends about the entire episode, conflicted about, okay, how do I cause a distraction?
Well, no, she's trying, she doesn't know how to fly the TARDIS, but the Doctor tells her the coordinates are already set. So she set the coordinates to show up in the king's chamber when he didn't know where the king was.
She gets into the TARDIS and she goes, okay, distraction, how do I make a distraction? And she spends all episode and it cuts away, and then when it cuts back to her, she goes, distraction, how do I make a distraction? And she settles on an adequate distraction would be rematerializing. So she does so in the king's chamber, and it works. It does cause a distraction. Which is well timed, I suppose.
So the Master's plan is to have the Doctor killed. Well, he goes off. He uses Chameleon to destroy the king's reputation and prevent Magna Carta from ever happening, to destroy modern republics, modern democracy.
Which is impossible because it's a fixed point in time.
We don't know that.
Okay.
Right. So, but
what determines whether or not it's a fixed point in time?
The needs of the plot.
So the Magna... Okay.
It's that simple. The needs of the plot. If it needs to be a fixed point in time, it's a fixed point in time. If they want to jigger with it, if they want to mess with it, they make it not a fixed point.
I assumed what determined a fixed point in time would be how consequential that action is on future events makes it a fixed point in time.
You would figure that.
Yeah, but not so. As is most things in Doctor Who.
Yeah. So there are always going to be continuity problems in a show that's 60 years old.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, in a show that's 20 years old, like it is here. Okay, so the Doctor and the Master fight over Chameleon because the Doctor's trying to show that the King is not the King. Chameleon gets turned into Tegan by the Doctor.
Chameleon, yeah. So the Doctor won this battle of wheels.
Yeah.
Wills. And he's now in charge of Chameleon, apparently. Which is weird, because Chameleon is a very autonomous kind of robot with its own thoughts and feelings. Yet he's still influenced and controlled by kinetic energy waves, as they say.
Right, he's very influenceable, but he is his own person. So the Doctor grabs the Chameleon that looks like Tegan, rushes her into the TARDIS, and Turlough follows, and they leave. And Tegan's like, well, the real Tegan's like, well, you're just going to leave the Master? He says, well, we have Chameleon. This is not a problem. He's not going to be able to destroy civilizations, as he does as the bad guy gives up his plan to the Doctor. He's not going to be able to destroy civilizations without Chameleon. She says, well, he still has his TARDIS. He says, well, I left him in a nasty surprise because he left the tissue compressor on the back of the TARDIS
turned on.
It turned on in such a way that it's a big self-destruct trap thingy or something. That's implied, you know.
So the Master takes advantage of this distraction to also sneak off in his Iron Maiden TARDIS, and then he travels to the future and starts a rock band also called Iron Maiden.
No,
but I'm assuming that's where it's sent him to instead of where he's going to do. So the Doctor has stolen this robot called Chameleon, and he then rescued. And his conclusion is, oh well, I took the Master's robot. The Master's not going to be able to cause any issues, right? Because like before he had Chameleon, he never caused any issues. So now he doesn't have Chameleon. He's not going to do anything.
The Master's plans are all scrubbed. So they get in the TARDIS, and Tegan's looking at herself, the Chameleon Tegan. She's like, I don't like it, and the Doctor's like, well, okay, and Chameleon turns into himself, his own appearance, and the Doctor's like, well, wait, this is Chameleon. And she's like, it's just a robot.
Can we trust it?
Yeah, can we trust it? She didn't like Turlough, although there was reason for her not to like Turlough. She doesn't like Chameleon.
I'd say the reason not to like Chameleon is that it looked like her, which is very unsettling. And you would probably also not like a robot that looked like you.
So she's like, okay, I don't like it. I don't trust it. Yeah. And Chameleon's like, well, I do have a mind of my own. I am sentient. And the Doctor looks at Turlough and goes, do you trust it? Turlough goes, yeah. Doctor goes, looks like you're outvoted. And so Chameleon joins and becomes a companion.
Chameleon says, where shall my cabins be?
And she says, you can have my room for all I care. Yeah.
And the Doctor's horribly offended by this because he very much likes this random robot that he just picked up over his longtime companion.
He doesn't like her. He doesn't like people being intolerant of whatever.
Yeah. So he immediately takes the side of this random new robot over his long-term companion. He goes, all right, then I can have your room, and I'm taking you back home.
And she's like, I don't want to go home.
She said, I thought, as your long-term companion, I'd have some sort of say over the companions. I was just saying I don't trust this robot, and I was airing that concern in a somewhat, and he goes, I don't care. You're gone. I'm choosing the robot over you or taking you back home. And she goes, well, you're being very cruel and mean, and that's not where I said it all. And the Doctor said, doesn't matter, you want to go home, I'm taking you home.
He's drastically paraphrasing. It's not what they say, but yeah. So
she goes, no, I don't want to go home. And she goes, fine, I'm keeping the robot, and I'll keep you. But just so you know, I like the robot more than you because
He's interpreting body language. Basically,
pretty much a conversation.
Right. She gets really humble at that point, finally, and he goes, "Okay, you can stay. I'll take you to see the Eye of Orion."
I would say it is very humbling for someone to choose a random robot over your longtime friendship and companion.
All right. Some interesting facts about Chameleon. First of all, he's only our second
robot companion?
About our new companion.
Oh.
He's only our second robotic companion ever.
Yeah.
After K9.
Second robot companion.
And there are arguably two more. Handles.
Cyborg.
Yeah, the cyborg.
Cyberman head.
Cyberman head.
Well, he's a cyborg.
No, he's a Cyberman, which is a type of cyborg, but it's the head.
Which has a brain in it, but with
Yes.
no emotions.
Right. And... yeah. And, what's his name?
Yeah, what's the fourth robot companion?
Okay, Nardal. Nardal starts out human.
Nardal.
Nardal.
Narwhal.
Nardal. Nardal.
Okay.
He starts out human-esque, a flesh and blood life form.
A flesh and bone narwhal.
And then
a robot narwhal.
Essentially, the doctor ends up having him put into a robot.
That's creepy.
After that, it is. It's kind of creepy.
He Frankenstein's one of his companions.
Well, he didn't start out as a companion, but
he's not a companion until he's a Frankenstein monster.
Yes.
Okay.
He starts out as a really fun side character in a Christmas episode. Mm-hmm. In fact, my favorite 12th Doctor episode of all of them, The Husbands of River Song.
Anniversary special?
No, it's not an anniversary special, but it's a Christmas episode. And like I said, my favorite 12th Doctor episode, The Husbands of River Song.
Does Hartnell look into the camera and go, "Merry Christmas"?
No.
Alright, it's not a real Christmas
There's actually something close that happens.
Oh, good.
But they brought him back because he was so good in that episode. They brought him back but they killed his body. He was just a head at that point in this galactic emperor's body.
Kind of like Handles.
Kinda.
That's the
So
sci-fi
they bring him
trope.
back and they bring him back as a robot.
That's the sci-fi trope of this super evil villain with this massive intellect, but he's actually harmless because his consciousness has been transferred into a goldfish in a bowl. It sounds very specific, like it wouldn't be a sci-fi trope, but you'd be surprised how many times that pops up in sci-fi shows.
Alright, interesting facts about Chameleon. He's a companion, and we only see him twice. The serial where he gets into the TARDIS, and the serial where he leaves.
That's a short companion.
Alright, the backstory. There was a British guy who invented Chameleon and got convinced the BBC to use it as a companion.
He was trying to make his own Daleks, right? Because he saw those Dalek paychecks. He's like, I can do that.
Well, maybe.
Check out Chameleon.
Anyway, so this guy was the only guy who knew how to work Chameleon because it was a big animatronic thing. So right after they get Chameleon onto the show, the guy dies in a weird boating accident.
So they couldn't use the animatronics.
So they couldn't use the animatronics. They couldn't really use Chameleon. No one else knew how to work it. They let somebody play with the thing constantly for a few weeks or a couple of months, till they figured out how to work it. And then they brought it back on the show and had his goodbye episode, and he leaves.
That's tragic.
It is. We might have seen the character a lot more if this guy who invented him and was the one guy who knew how to work him at the time had not died.
Or if he had bothered to make a user manual.
Nobody's going to make a user manual like that for something they don't expect anyone else to ever use. But yeah, it's one of those weird behind the scenes crazy backstories that you really have to dig deep to find out about.
Speaking of which, the crazy behind the scenes facts. Speaking of Christmas specials, my favorite is when Hartnell looked directly in the camera and said, "Merry Christmas." You're like, you can't.
To all of you at home, Merry Christmas.
And they said, you can't look in the camera, that breaks the fourth wall.
He refused to do any other takes.
And Hartnell said, nope. He said, that's a wrap.
I do like that. It's the
Not
only
doing it
Christmas special. The Feast of Stephen is the only Christmas special in Classic Who.
Yeah. He just said, they're like, you have to do this again. And he's just like, no.
Alright, time to vote on season 20.
Season 20.
Now that we've finished it. Alright, I've got that eraser. Okay, so we have Arc of Infinity, Snake Dance, Maldron Undead, Terminus, Enlightenment, and the King's Demons.
Alright, which one's your favorite? Just so I know which one to mark off first. So we, as traditional, we'll start with our least favorite, which would be... These are all pretty good, actually.
They're all decently
This
good.
one's kind of weird.
I like Enlightenment.
Me too. Like, weird in a good way. This one was very short, so it's hard for a 2-season...
A two-parter?
A 2-episode to measure up to 4-parters.
Alright, we can go with that.
That being said, the Master came back, but it's the Master.
Chameleon's a little dicey.
It's nothing we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
I'd say it kind of comes up weak compared to a lot of these other serials.
I don't know, I think several of these are weak, but...
we do have some... Yeah, we have some 4-parters that might give a 2-parter a run for its money.
Okay, look, we can get rid of King's Demons.
Now let's cross that one off first.
The season finale, but it wasn't much.
It was a season finale. It was really not much. It almost felt like they were halfway through writing it, and they got halfway through episode 3, and they're just like, just keep it 2 parts. We'll stick it in 1 week season finale. So that would be the first one I would cross off. You said you had another one that you didn't like too much. It's pretty weak. What would you?
Okay.
Think? I don't know. I think some of these were pretty fun. Terminus was fun. Maldron Undead was fun.
Yeah, I think the best 3 of these
Snake
3.
Dance was fun.
Okay. The one guy in Snake Dance, the blonde guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was absolutely fantastic.
He was.
It was such a good, privileged jerk.
He was really good at being awful. Yeah. That's what I was about to say.
But
and then Arc of Affinity, I would agree that these 2 kind of fall short compared to these other 3.
Mm-hmm.
These were pretty good.
I thought you would have liked this just because the Mara returned, and you were all about that in a bag of chips.
I did really like Snake Dance. I'd say probably Arc of Affinity was the next least good. What I would actually say out of these 3, Enlightenment was only okay. I did really like the villain in Snake Dance. I got excited about the Mara coming back, and I'm always excited about villains coming back. That's like my one question. Do they come back?
Okay, the Master does come back.
Mm-hmm.
Chameleon comes back once.
Yeah, the Master really comes back. That's why the first one I crossed off was this one.
Alright.
Which one's the next to go, Heather?
I would argue Snake Dance.
Snake Dance? I'd argue Enlightenment. So how do you feel about a 50-50 split between these 2 and these 2?
Okay.
Like, do we keep these 2 and lose these 2? Or do we need to discuss that further?
Okay, I really like Enlightenment.
You really like
I really like Enlightenment.
Alright, I do like some of these more than Snake Dance, so we'll go ahead and cross that one off.
Okay, Maldron Undead had the benefit...
I really like this one.
Notice we have the Black Guardian trilogy here.
Yeah, that's the one that stays.
Yeah, the Black Guardian trilogy. Okay, Maldron Undead had the benefit of not only 1, but 2 Brigadiers.
Right. Oh, the Brigadier was
that.
so good. It was also the introduction to the Black Guardian trilogy.
And Turlo.
And Turlo. So it had all the fun stuff of kicking off this trilogy, whereas Enlightenment had the struggle of trying to round it all up, and it was a little confusing, and it kind of, threw some things together to kind of finish off the trilogy. I'd say ultimately between these 2, Terminus would be the next to go.
Yeah.
In comparison.
Good, and we missed Nissa. But Terminus was good. Like I said, this trilogy to me is the best part of the season by far.
I was so upset that Nissa didn't even stick around to see the end of the Black Guardian trilogy. I thought we'd have her for at least that long. I didn't think we'd lose her until like maybe after the season finale, but we lost her here, and I wasn't expecting that.
And then we do this one with the two companions, and then we pick up Chameleon.
We go ahead and cross this one off just to forget about the emotional. All right. So I think you like Enlightenment over Modern Undead.
I'm thinking.
I would almost say that I preferred Modern Undead to Enlightenment, although they're both very unique and very entertaining in their own way. So I'm almost like on a 50-50 split.
I'm gonna go with the Brigadier.
Me too.
Let's make Modern Undead.
I would
as much as I like Enlightenment, I think it's a great story. I'm gonna go with the Brigadier on this one.
I also like Enlightenment, but I would also agree with the fact that Modern Undead just barely beats it out.
Yeah.
Just on star power alone.
There you go. Modern Undead, the best of season 20 according to us. Write that down in wherever you write it down.
Alright. Season 20.
Any other Doctor Who news? We're still waiting on season 20 to be coming out later this year or possibly early next year for the United States. It's coming out before November. I think September 18th or something in the UK. Hopefully we'll get it before the end of the year, which is funny because we just finished it. Join us next week when we will hopefully be doing the 5 Doctors.
The 5 Doctors!
Yes. The last appearance of Pertwee in the main show, although he does do a Children in Need special that was originally going to be the 30th anniversary.
So Pertwee doesn't come back for the next season finale. Or anniversary special. But Troughton does.
Troughton is the other Doctor in the 2 Doctors.
So he comes back.
He comes back, right.
Which I'm very happy about.
Okay.
Because Troughton's still my favorite.
And Pertwee does come back for that Children in Need that was going to be the 30th anniversary special.
Oh, really?
Yes, that is his last appearance as the Doctor. They basically do something like the 5 Doctors, which is absolutely fantastic, except it's only 20 minutes long and it's on a micro budget because everybody gave their time under the condition that it would never ever be sold on DVD.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. It was originally going to be the 30th anniversary. They had this big script, and then Fox decided to pick up the show, and Fox didn't want people to get into the show and have a confusing other thing going on. So they said, okay, this other thing, make it, because that was 93, and the Fox TV show started in 96 and ended in 96, just the pilot episode.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, make this 30th thing, don't make it. And it got made anyway, independently, but as a much shortened version, as a Children in Need special, I believe.
But it wasn't released on DVD?
No, you can see it on YouTube, which is a recording of the original broadcast.
So you don't have it on DVD? How are we going to watch it?
It doesn't exist on YouTube.
We're going to YouTube it?
We're going to YouTube it because somebody recorded the original broadcast and it's split into 2 parts, and people got to vote on who would be the person to save the day with the Doctor in it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so original.
It was like Fat Al or this little girl were the finalists, and the little girl won. So a little girl gets to help the Doctor save the day in the 30th.
So it wasn't Fat Albert? What?
No, Fat Al or something like that. I forget the guy's name.
So it's other TV show characters that are in this special?
No, it was a guy who was nicknamed Fat Al or something like that.
I guess we'll get to it when we get...
We will get to it. We're about to do the 20th. We'll get to the 30th in a bit.
Should we get 20th? Season 20?
That's obviously an Apocrypha episode.
Yeah. So season 20, we voted on our season favorite, Modern Undead. Every season I like to go down memory lane. Do you remember some of our other season favorites?
For this Doctor?
Season 19.
Yeah, we've only had one other season.
Was Earthshock. Was our season favorite.
So good.
We also had our Best of Baker.
Yes.
Season 18 was Legopolis.
Wait, but the overall was Genesis of the Daleks, right?
Genesis of the Daleks.
Yeah.
Season 17 was City of Death.
Yeah, of course.
Season 16 was the Pirate Planet. And
Yes.
then 15 was the Horror of Fing Rock.
Yep.
And then we have season 14, which was the Talons of Wing Chang. And then season 13, Pyramids of Mars.
Yeah.
And then season 12,
Genesis of the Daleks.
which just goes to say Baker had a lot of seasons.
7 seasons, the most for any doctor ever.
There's so many seasons.
Alright.
Alright.
Okay, join us next week, please, for the 5 Doctors, or the Heroes and Villains, or what have you. And thanks so much for joining us. Oh, we now have 51 subscribers. We broke 50. Yay!
You jinxed it. They just unsubscribed.
Oh no!
Wait. I have one question. One question.
That's right. I didn't ask if you had any questions.
Do we see the Master ever again? Does he come
Yes,
back?
we do. We see him in the old stuff again, and then we see him in the new stuff.
We also talked about how much a TARDIS weighs.
Yes, it
Which
weighs
is
whatever the
depends.
shell is, because apparently the interdimension holds all that weight.
We also talked about, it was the Master the whole time. We talked about why the King wasn't really the King.
Right.
The Master was disguised as the King's Guardsman. And I think we're still in difference on whether or not Sir Giles was played by the same character that played the Master. You said it
He
was,
is,
and
yes.
I said I don't think it is.
Would you care to make a wager on
Maybe.
that?
Yeah.
What?
I don't know. Something fun. What was the last one that I said? Oh, I get to pick the next movie. What was the wager?
We can do
For
that.
movie night?
Or beignets at Café du Monde.
Oh, I'll bet you've been
There you go. Beignets.
If they're open this time.
Well, we just need to go there.
Not during COVID.
Yeah, and not super late. Well, no, it's a labor shortage. Everything's going with labor shortage. But we need to go
When
there
did we
not
go there
super
last
late.
time at like 2 a.m. or something?
I don't know. It was like 11 or something.
You're like, they never close.
And
it's like,
they were closed.
And on the sign it still said open 24 hours. And we're like, what?
We're going to New Orleans in a couple of weeks from today, or from yesterday, for the season premiere of The Saints, the opening game. Yeah. It'll be fun.
We also talked about our new companion, Chameleon,
Yes.
who is not the Chameleon Circuit, and he's also not from the serial The Chameleons, but he's a entirely different chameleon,
Yes.
which does come back as a companion, but then no longer comes back as he's no longer a companion. But
It's
isn't there
so weird.
still a chameleon or chameleons in the new stuff? Like, don't the chameleons come back, or are they called the autons that come back?
The Autons come back. Chameleons don't come
We never see chameleons again. Okay, that
At
was my
least
question.
not thus far.
Not this part. All right, well, that's it. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next week for our season
For the 20th anniversary,
special.
the 5
The
Doctors.
5 Doctors. That's right.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.